This lecture is trying to get at, trying to understand the universal appeal of gangster rap. And we're going to do this by exploring, doing a long exploration of the origins of gangster rap. Then we're going to look at the proximate, the more direct influences on the origins of gangster rap. I I will give a disclaimer here, and that is rap is something that needs to be experienced. When you talk about it, to use an early 90s term, you sound like a buster. I don't even sound right saying that. You sound like a mark. Just talking about it, especially like when you put it, when you write it, you're not like when you write lyrics or you go online and you look up rap lyrics and then you're reading them and it's like this sounds fake. This doesn't sound like it. This doesn't sound like the actual lyrics when you see them written down. I've read many histories on rap music. I've listened to audiobooks of histories on rap music, and it just doesn't sound right when they're reading it or when they're talking about it. Ice T, Tupac, you know, don't worry, I know it's Tupac, but Young Jeezy, Lil Boosie, it doesn't sound right when they're saying it. So that's a disclaimer here. I'm going to be talking about gangster rap, and it's going to seem scholarly. So forgive me, but just know that the ethos of gangster rap can be found in the music. Another disclaimer is that I was raised probably like many of you, although this sensibility, this type of rearing could be gone with the wind, but gangster rap was verboten in my household growing up. It was forbidden. So it became contraband. Like people like Tipper Gore and others, American courts tried to make it for all of America. C. Dolores Tucker, they tried to make it contraband for all of America with the parental advisory sticker. Do you remember that sticker? Parental advisory, explicit content. And so just a little bit of my rearing gangster rap is verboten. And so maybe you were like me, where you kind of listened to it when you did. It was hidden. It was secret. And when your parents, when your dad found the tapes, they would get these are cassette tapes. To all my young people, back 3, 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago, there was a form of media called a cassette tape. It was comprised of petroleum, which is plastic, and there was like a spool, another plastic spool inside of it, and you would stick it in this thing called a. So those things were going to get smashed, right? And that brings another thing, another element into this lecture, and that is I'm not going to provide any moral commentary, no moral commentary about gangster rap, so called. Once again, remember my mark disclaimer. Uh, just to say gangster rap sounds funny, okay? But so now with those disclaimers, I'm just a historian, and historians love talking about. There are so many historians of war. There are so many historians of conflict, media historians. These will kind of all come together in this lecture. What is a definition of gangster rap? And already I see the limitations of this. So I'm just one person. If you want to learn more, hear more, get a larger picture, something more comprehensive, something more holistic, listen to some more lectures on it. Read some books. I can definitely recommend some books to you, probably in the description below. So read some books, listen to the abundant primary sources of rappers themselves talking about their influence, talking about the early years of gangster rap, talking about their experiences as being a rapper. But of course, this lecture is in the making. It's really a part one, and it's going to be riddled with mistakes, as anything humans do. So I encourage you to take it and improve on it. Right off, Black youth. We know that now there are many other ethnicities who do gangster rap, mainly young men. It's almost all men, but of course, there are exceptions. Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, and so many other women have dipped into the gangster rap genre in discrete songs. If it's not the whole album, it's a discrete song. And you can even apply the gangster rap ethos to certain aspects that aren't that aren't gangster per se. Like for instance, in the arena of sex, you can be gangster about it. So this is now a gangster, Gangsta. Remember my disclaimer. Gangster could be a genre of rap, uh, but it can also be a noun. It can be an adjective. So it has entered into the general nomenclature as you do something well, that was gangster. Maybe it denotes something that's severe or extreme or decisive. That's gangster. So it's larger. It's larger than that. But they're speaking and performing poetry over music. The lyrics are their reflections around their lives. It could be past lives, present lives, future lives in the city. Are there suburban gangster rappers? Can the suburbs breed, form a gangster rapper? That's probably a conversation for another time. And they're writing lyrics about their personal, local, and national contexts. Perhaps just as often they are incorporating or appropriating the lives and experiences of others. Particularly, gangster rap features themes of criminality, whether personal or collective, which includes, but not limited to, drug trafficking, homicide, larceny, and occasionally pimping. Admittedly, much of the lyrical content is exaggeration or outright fantasy, although there are plenty of, let's call them leitmotifs in gangster rap that's talking about you must have facts, you must have truth, you must have really lived this. So this is the authenticity ethos in gangster rap. The real ones, some people say the real ones don't rap, but the real gangster rappers are going to make a claim that I have really lived this, I've really seen this, I've really done this. But then you have things like horrorcore rap, which would be a subgenre of gangster rap, and that must be exaggeration or fantasy. Gangster rappers frequently explore the consequences of criminality, both the immediate gains such as money, material, and status, and the psychic, physical, and legal sequelae of the actions such as regret, avengement, apprehension by law enforcement, and jail prison. There are serious and sustained critiques of America's law enforcement complex, notably police racial profiling, police corruption, police brutality, and unfairness in legal process and sentencing. And by the way, this is just my definition, and I write this stuff, so this is not AI. It's a shame now that everyone has to give that disclaimer, but this is not AI. If it was AI, I would say it would say gangster rap is not this. It is this, that construction of AI. It's like, why does AI choose to write like that? It's not just this. It's also besides this. So you won't see any of that here. Not just music. There is also an element in the tracks and videos of gangster rap of theater, performative, posing, and other dramatic effects. So think about this definition that we are providing, and you can add to it. Gangster rap has everything. It is now tens and tens and tens of thousands of songs over, let's say that it starts in the mid 80s to the present. So that is over 4 decades of gangster rap. Everything is in gangster rap, the totality of the human experience. And that's one thing that we're going to bring out in this lecture, that gangster rap essentially has captured a huge aspect of the human experience. It is universal. It has narrative, adventure, theater, morality, instruction, lesson, transgression, romance. And by romance, I guess I mean romance, human romance, but also the sentimental, the fantastic, catharsis, redemption, grandiosity, primal, reflective, motivation, youth, power, anger, angst, unapologetic, sexual, grimy, luxurious, fantasy, reality, you name it. It's across the board of what gangster rap has. And this is just me just writing down words. Nas once referred to himself as the ghetto Othello. And within that phrase, that moniker is comprehended the high art of gangster rap, the poetry, the craft, how it captures ancient and atavistic themes, the human experience. It locates the place of gangster rap, the city, the urban environment of African Americans, essentially African Americans, let's say Black Americans, not only African Americans, Caribbean Americans from Africa. So Black Americans, but now in America, in the United States, African Americans. And of course, I know that it's gone global, but forgive me for just referring to here in this lecture, mainly America. Ghetto Othello, when you hear certain gangster rappers, and you see that my definition of it is broad, your Nas's, your Tupac's, your Biggie's, your Jay-Z's. If you want to go a little further back, your Ice-T's, your Ice Cubes, your NWA's, your Cool G Raps, your Schoolie D's. This is in many ways our Shakespeare. It's our classical music. And ironically, Nas has sampled literal classical music, European classical music in his music. So Ghetto Othello, think about that. Think about that. And the whole point, I think, of Shakespeare was not only to entertain. Shakespeare was not only to entertain, but to reflect on and to get the audience to reflect on the human condition. Think about that. Ghetto Othello. What are some subgenres of gangster rap? And these genres, bear in mind, they're not always exclusive. So they merge, they meld like any genre. There's regional and national. Regional and national. The big cities for gangster rap, initially, I guess if you're saying that Schoolie D is the pioneer, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York City. Later, Houston, Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit. I want you to think about this. I want to posit that we know, or collectively we know, very little about the origins of rap and gangster rap. I know that we think that we have the narrative, Bronx, early 1970, 1972, but a genre of music does not materialize like that. I don't think that you can name a place, Sedgwick Avenue, at a certain time like that. It is definitely an evolution, it's a process. And we have much oral history that says that gangster rap was percolating. Rap, let's say, was percolating way before Bronx in the early 1970s. There's no way that you can confine it there. Now, can we trace a popularization there, a movement there that we can trace a direct line, a through line to rap as it is now? Yes. So in many ways, that is an origin and that is a creation. But there will be multiple origins here. And that's the way it is with gangster rap. So regional, national, it is springing up independently in different places. Some subgenres of rap, drill, trap, G-funk, mafioso, snap, cloud, horrorcore, crunk. Would crunk be gangster rap? Some crunk is definitely gangster rap. Let's take T.I. and Young Jeezy and some others. They're mixing crunk, trap, and that's gangster rap. Hyphy, crunk, and boom bap. Some of the earliest gangster rap was from KRS-One, and that's boom bap. We could call that boom bap. My 9mm goes bang. Let's look at some of the. Remember that we are exploring the origins of gangster rap, and these are the long origins. What is my point in this section of the lecture? My point is the themes in gangster rap and the media, the conduit for expressing those themes through art, what have you, are universal and they're long lived. Gangster rap is not a new phenomenon, it is time honored. So, what are some universal human archetypes of gangster rap? The warrior. Every single society has the concept, the archetype. What is an archetype? You can study Carl Jung on archetypes. These days we call them a meme, but there is a meme means something more than a GIF, whatever you call it, of what you share online, with your friends on the phone. It is a human construct, symbol that is enduring that you can find in every culture. It's the warrior. Gangster rap talks about warriors. It talks about people in conflict. And humans have always and everywhere been in conflict, and warriors are lauded and respected. Good versus evil. An archetype. In much of gangster rap, you can almost see the angel and the demon on the shoulders. And they are constantly at war. Gangster rappers are constantly at war between good and evil. They are almost serially and chronically reflective of what they are doing, what they are conveying in their rhymes, about the morality of it. Very rarely will you see a sociopathic gangster rapper with no emotion and no reflection on the morality or the amorality of what they're doing. Good versus evil. I'm doing this now for this reason. I'm trying to get out of it. I ended this person's life. I didn't want to. I feel bad about it. The strong man. I want to be the strongest man in this area, in this district, in this neighborhood. I am the best. I have the most power. I'm the strong man. That's a human archetype. And it is not without morality. The strong man gets there by hook or crook, by power. We've already gone over the warrior. I don't know why I have it twice. And then there are the ancient warrior battle songs. Okay, so we have all these archetypes, and these archetypes are as old as humans, as old as time. But we also have media, art, expressing, glorifying, discussing, depicting the archetypes. Almost every single culture, you're going to hear me say this, pan culture, across cultures, across time, peoples, tribes have warrior battle songs. Everybody's fighting. You're going to war. You're going to make music about it. This is gangster rap, making music about the war, making music about the struggle, the conflict. This is deep within humans. It is probably in our genes, in our DNA. And so you resonate with music that discusses the conflict. You can see some of the ancient warrior, and I tried to find original pictures or some depictions of art, sometime close to the time period, but you know, so Norses and Vikings, African people groups. This could be Zulu, the Zulu people. This looks like Ming Dynasty China, perhaps Mongolia. What about the universal archetype of the outlaw? Someone who is on the other side of the law. They're not obeying the law. They always have a backstory. There's always a reason for it. There's always a justification for it. The outlaw always has, as the young people say, lore or an arc, a narrative arc, a villain arc. And people identify with the outlaw. The outlaw is painted about, depicted, sung about. And this is in every culture, but this is one legendary legend of an outlaw. It's an Icelandic outlaw, and it's the saga of Gridr the Strong. This is combining a strong man who is an outlaw, who has a strong backstory, a strong arc. This is ancient rap music. Oh, you know, what about his morality? What is it doing to the youth of Iceland? Is there a parental advisory sticker on this track or when this story is told? Can we take the people who created the saga of Gridr the Strong, can we take them to court? Poverty. All human societies have poverty. They all have the have-nots. Jesus Christ epically said, "The poor you have with you always." That is such a rich text that reporting of what Christ said. Christ never wrote anything down. That is such a rich text. Why will you always have the poor with you? Why will there always be systematic corruption that create the poor? Why will there always be a scarcity mindset where why will there always be inequality where I have much and someone else has little? The poor you have with you always. So because you have the poor with you always, there will always be the condition of the poor trying to get more money by hook or crook. The outlaw going against the corrupt system, fighting for resources. The archetype of the underdog. And once again, these overlap. These are different. I know that the underdog can be fighting against a strong man. The underdog can be a warrior fighting against another warrior. So I'm not saying that these are discrete categories. You see David and Goliath, and you see Malcolm Gladwell try to complicate the story of David and Goliath, that it was actually David was actually a bully of sorts because Goliath was disabled. He had gigantism, and David is in effect shooting him or killing him with an ancient gun, which is a slingshot. But David is the kind of the ultimate or the enduring underdog. And gangster rappers are presenting themselves in this universal construct of it's me against the system. You are living in Brooklyn and you can see the incredible, unprecedented wealth of Manhattan represented in those skyscrapers far away, close, but so far away. And you're in an apartment, a small apartment with rats and roaches, and the neighborhood is burning. Maybe you're in the Bronx. The neighborhood is burning. Crack addicts everywhere. I'm never going to make it out. I'm never going to make it out of here. I'm an underdog. I'm an underdog. So this is the underdog archetype. Listen to some of these Bible passages. This is definitely not the oldest book, of course, but it's in the United States, the most famed and referenced book. Not even close. There's not even a close second. But this is from the Old Testament book, right after the Torah of Judges. And tell me how gangster this is. Then sang Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, on that day. So these are Hebrew conquerors, and they have just beaten in battle a Canaanite people group in really what is the expulsion project of the ancient Hebrews. Most blessed of women be Jael, Yael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, of tent-dwelling women. Most blessed, he asked for water, and she gave him milk. She brought him curds in a noble's bowl. She sent her hand to the tent peg and her right hand to the workman's mallet. She struck Sisera. She crushed his head. She literally nailed his head to the ground. She shattered and pierced his temple. Between her feet he sank, he fell, he lay still. Between her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell dead. They are making music about how the strong man of the people group who they conquered was killed by having a woman. She didn't drug him. She gave him some milk. She put him to sleep, and then she on his head. This was song lyrics. What genre of music would you put this in? I don't know if it's gangster rap, but what genre would you have this in? Listen to what the young women of the day were singing. This is King David's about to ascend the throne and essentially make Judah, Israel, consolidate it and make it into a kingdom, an empire. And you have the first king of Israel. The woman, the women sang and danced. Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. Is this a ditty? Is this a song about killing? Is it glorifying killing? What will this do to the youth of Israel? Forgive my forgive my humor. What will this do to the youth of Israel? Will it affect them, especially if you put a certain beat on it and you sing it with charisma? How will it affect the youth of Israel? Moving right along, David has a lot of rather gangster lyrics, especially even in the Psalms. Ironically, the book, the collection of poetry, lyrics that are read for your devotional, it's talking about taking the children of your enemies and banging their heads against the rocks and things like that. So this is an interesting form of gangster. David sang to the Lord the words of this song when the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies. And from the hand of Saul, he sang, I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them completely, and they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet. When I'm reading this, you may say, well, this is for the cause of righteousness. Isn't every cause righteous? Was there ever a people who fought a battle who were like, we're fighting this in the name of the devil, in the name of evil? Doesn't everybody think that their cause is righteous? I mean, to me, that's kind of beside the point. These are violent lyrics, and they're lyrics about destruction. They're lyrics about, on the flip side, of overcoming, of besting your enemies, of rising up and overcoming the odds against you. You armed me with strength for battle. You humbled my adversaries before me. You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I beat them as fine as the dust of the earth. I pounded and trampled them like mud in the streets. Make a list of biblical gangsters. If we choose to go that route, I mean, why? We don't need to. We don't need to prove our points more. But David must have had hundreds, thousands of bodies. Moses had one. Abraham had a lot. He was a warrior. On and on, right? Bodies, and you get a teardrop tattoo. Oh, you're being sacrilegious, really? These are just bodies, right? For David to get his first wife, Michelle, he had to get the foreskins, a part of their genitals. Of how many men? 100 men? That was the bride price to get Michelle. Perhaps this stuff is sanctified by antiquity. Perhaps it's sanctified by antiquity. So ancient cave art, this is media. This is art. They're killing each other in ancient caves, in ancient cave art. This is just one sample, I believe, from Mesopotamia. The warrior totems. Why would you glorify warriors? Maybe because atavistically life is a fight, and we see it as an existential project of conquering the enemies around us. If we don't conquer them, they'll conquer us. Therefore, we glorify those who protect us. We glorify those who are offensive and who conquer them before they conquer us. The warrior totems, the violent deities. Some of these are Yoruba, perhaps Fon, and the deities, the divine bureaucracy, Oludumare or Orun, and some of the lesser gods are violent, Yemoja, Ogun. You have violent gods. So even the gods engage in warfare. This is true of Allah. This is true of Yahweh. They are warriors. What does the Bible say in Exodus 15, I believe? The Lord is a man of war. Violence is the norm. You have to have rapport with violence. You have to combat violence. You have to be a warrior. In the Greek tradition, all of these are gods of war. This is polytheism proper. Africans were not polytheistic at all. They had a divine bureaucracy. If you have a president, then you have a vice president, you have directors, Congress, reps, senators, reps, on down the line. If you need succor, if you need aid and assistance, you don't go straight to the top. You don't go to Anyango. You appeal to a lesser deity because that's the deity who is assigned the area that you need help in. Let's say rain. You pray to the rain god. You don't pray to the main god. But I think that in ancient Greece, it probably depends upon the time period, but there is no supreme deity. It is all kind of demigods. But I'm not an ancient Greek scholar. These gods are violent by nature. Maybe we can say that they are naughty by nature. Your gods are violent. European history is replete with artists, musicians, painters who depict gangsters in their art, in their media. So this is Francois Villon, and he is the greatest, perhaps the greatest French poet of the Middle Ages. And he's writing about some gangster stuff. This is the Ballad of Villon and Fat Madge, and it is talking about violence, promiscuity, thievery, all in it. And this was titillating and provoking the imagination of the medieval good French people. And this is the media. Why are you consuming this media? Maybe because it is human and it depicts our condition. Can we please get some Roman Catholic goodness up in here? This is like the other side of the spectrum. Well, there were also critiques of the church, of the Roman Catholic Church. And there was some rather gangster activity happening there too. It covered the spectrum. But this was the what may have been referred to as the vulgar or the low culture. but its charisma was undeniable. What are we doing? We're just giving a long background, yet brief, of media of the past, constructs, archetypes of the past, memes of the past that were like gangster rap. What is the outlaw art in media? Robin Hood. He is a benevolent gangster. He robs people. Maybe someone can tell me if Robin Hood killed. I would have to revisit that. But he robbed people and he reappropriated the riches. This is an outlaw, it's a criminal, but he has a good heart. He's not a bad person. And people realized this is a little bit of a little bit of a digression, but people realized what the Robin Hood story was about, and they kind of called it proto socialism, proto communism, because the rich people who you're robbing from, didn't they work for it? Didn't they earn it? Didn't they work harder than you lazy poor people? I'm parroting, of course. But why would you rob from the rich and give to the poor when the poor didn't earn it and the rich did? I'm simplifying this. I'm simplifying, of course, but this is the thought. He's a socialist. He's a communist. Some people were even had that critique way back then. But whatever the case, Robin Hood was a folk hero. He was a folk hero. He gave out turkeys on Thanksgiving in the hood. What are the transportation ballots? Just about jooks and crooks, about the gangster lifestyle, about the thug life. That's what the transportation ballots were about. And these are medieval on to the 1800s. It's about living the thug life. Come all ye men have learned this 1820, and a warning take by me, I would have you quit night walking and shun bad company. I would have you quit night walking, or else you'll rule the day. You'll rule your transpation lads when you're bound for Botany Bay. I was brought up in London town, and a place I knew full well, brought up by honest parents. For the truth to you I'll tell, brought up by honest parents, and reared most tenderly, till I became a roving blade, which proved my destiny. My character soon taken was, and I was sent to jail. My friends, they tried to clear me, but nothing could prevail. At the Old Bailey sessions, the judge to me did say, the jury's found you guilty, lad, so you must go to Botany Bay. People would read this and be like, oh man. And it would come with illustrations and everything. This is the gangster life. And I think that for all the glorification of the life that happens in gangster rap, there are very stern, frank depictions of the consequences of the life. All my homies are dead. I got to do a bid. Police got me. FBI got me. DEA. I'm facing death. I'm scared. I can't sleep at night because of the guilt. My mind's playing tricks on me. I'm imagining things. Somebody shot at me. They took vengeance on my family. They took vengeance on my friends. They got my girlfriend. There's cognitive dissonance. The Lord's trying to tell me something. I can't go to church. I can't look at myself in the mirror. There are all of these very real consequences. And the transportation ballads, they would oftentimes bring they would depict the wages of unrighteousness, as it were, in their rhymes. But sometimes they did just glorify the evil. You see this man right here. He is an outlaw. He's an outlaw. He's an outlaw. There was a highway robber, a story I will tell. And this is a conceit of the narrator. that you're going to tell the story of the outlaw. You're not the outlaw yourself, but you're going to tell the story of the outlaw. Right. There was a highway robber, a story I will tell. His name was Willie Brennan. In London, he did dwell. He proved his first career, excuse me, all in the mountains dreary. He proved his first career, and many a noble gentleman before him shook with fear. Oh, Brennan on the moor, Brennan on the moor, bold, gay, undaunted stood young Brennan on the moor. A brace of loaded pistols he carried both night and day. He robbed not from the poor, but always on the king's highway. He robbed from the rich, as in disturbance of Black Bess, and he freely divided with widows in distress. Oh, Brennan on the moor, Brennan on the moor, both gay, stood young Brennan on the moor. So there is a righteous reason for you doing this. This out. Let's come a little closer to home. Remember that this is like an exploration of gangster rap. Why is it so appealing universally? Why does it still stream in the billions? Back when albums were out, why did they sell in the hundreds of millions? Why does it make so much money? How does it pervade the culture? How is slang, a lot of slang comes from rap and gangster rap? How does the swagger, how does the charisma come from gangster rap? Because it's rooted in our history, it's rooted in humanity. It is a part of the very zeitgeist, and it is American history. American history is gangster. American history is one set against another fighting for territory. In the beginning was America. Is that Alexis de Tocqueville? Is it Leo Tolstoy? I forgot who said that. Europe, the very contentious, genocidal, ethnocidal Europeans are coming to the new world and they are transporting their beefs. They are roving gangs. They're transporting their beefs to the present day United States, and it's the Spanish. I'm repping Spanish S side. I'm repping French F side. I'm repping British. I'm repping Dutch. I'm repping Portuguese. Oh, we are against the Cherokees. We are against the Sasquatch. We are against the Comanches. We are definitely against the Seminoles. It is just throw up your set. We call it a flag. How is that different from a bandana? How is that different from gang signs? You tell me. Oh, because it's national and the killing, the CIDE is industrial scale. They estimate that 100 million Native Americans, indigenous, lost their lives to the European rampage. And we can't even mention, I wanted to say rapine. I didn't want to say rampage. I wanted to say rapine. And we can't even mention the Europeans who lost their lives in inter-European wars in the United States, in the Americas, in the Caribbean. How many Europeans lost their lives in 30 days war, 30 years war, 30 years war? We need to stop European on European violence. We need to stop white on white violence. What about white on white violence? American history is gangsterism. State sanctioned crime. You are criminals. You African Americans, you Negroes are criminals. We African Americans were criminalized by the state. It was state sanctioned crime. It was state sanctioned gangsterism. Wish somebody would argue with me. How was it not? How was this not state sanctioned gangsterism? How was it not one people against another people, like a gang? How was it not violent? How was it not oppressive? We could go deeper and talk about what Britain did to China with the Opium Wars. Are you pumping crack cocaine? I should just say cocaine into the community. Are you doing that on a national scale? Would you start a war over that? Would you start a drug war over that? Just Google the Opium Wars, first, second, third, 20th Opium War. Would you do that? American history has gangsterism, capitalism, and ill-gotten gain. Are you making buku money, dollars, capital on the backs of other people exploiting other people? Not only African Americans, the 10 million total African Americans enslaved in the United States from 1619 to 1865 and beyond, in the prison system and debt peonage, the convict leasing system, but poor white people, the Irish, others from Europe, definitely Native Americans, definitely the Chinese. Are you making money off the oppression of others and its ill-gotten gain? Are you making fast money? Settling disputes with guns? Come on now, this is a rich milieu. This is a rich context. Is gangster rap arising from a vacuum? And there's nothing behind it. There's nothing beneath it. There's no context. American history is not one of gangsterism. Grown men settling disputes with guns, that only happens in the black community. That only happens in the part of town that you can't go at night and you wouldn't dare drive through. That only happens then. It didn't happen with good white men in tights and petticoats with white wigs and high heels. Gangster presidents. This is Andrew Jackson. I think a number of presidents got in duels, but we know Jackson. He purportedly got in hundreds of duels. Is it over 100? What is the latest? Is there a duel historian? And he killed people in duels. This is gangster. This is thug. This is outlaw. And what had happened was the white ruling class would just make it a law. The duels were at one time lawful. So it was lawful to kill people, but you say, okay, so you say then it wasn't wrong. Well, you're just making up the laws. And this is not a democracy. What percentage of people were white men who could vote? I mean, the only people who could vote were white men of a certain kind. Jackson did expand that actually, Andrew Jackson when he was president. But how was that a democracy if 15% of the population can vote and decide things? Women can't vote, black people can't vote, Native Americans can't vote, certain immigrants can't vote, white men who don't have land, who can't read, who don't have enough money, who aren't of a certain heritage, grandfather didn't do this, they can't vote. So how is this a democracy? You are making the laws to privilege you, to comport with your lifestyle, and you're killing people industrial level, industrial scale. Native Americans, Black people, other Europeans, each other. This is gangsterism, unculture. Where did it originate from? It originated in early America, despite what Michael Belial may say. It originated here. The one with the gun won. You have a right to carry a gun. And this flows out. It flows out. It's in the American DNA. African Americans are the quintessential Americans. Despite what we have gone through here, we bleed the red, white, and blue. Who are the American folk heroes? They happen to be outlaws. Many of them happen to be outlaws and gangsters. Bonnie and Clyde. And isn't this a trope in rap music? Tupac is Bonnie and Clyde. Jay-Z and Beyonce are Bonnie and Clyde. Gangster rappers. And by the way, this lecture is not to excuse gangster rap. Like I said, I'm not making a moral judgment. Black people have full agency. They can decide to do gangster rap. They can decide to not do gangster rap. What I'm saying is that this is coming from the very fabric of America. Why were Bonnie and Clyde bank thieves, thugs, gangsters? How did they become American folk heroes? Why were they so loved? It's because America is gangster. And Ice Cube said as much. America. So this is an old saw by now. These are folk heroes. These are American folk heroes. Your John Dillinger. These are the American folk heroes. Your John Dillinger, your Al Capone, your Bugsy Siegels. These are who we heroize. Why? Because it's the American way. It's the American zeitgeist. It's in the American DNA. You may say that it is America's shadow. I don't know how shadow it is. I think it's out in the open. What is our fascination with gangsters? What is our fascination with gangsters? As the young people may say, and some of my references to young people are even the older young people now, but why are you like this? Why are you like this? The gangs of New York, they're white gang, they're white gangsters, they're white thugs. What about American media? The cowboys and the outlaws, the tough, swaggering individual, the white man, scruffy beard, swagger, gun, bang, bang, cut your throat. This is high cinema, and it is immediately relatable to Americans. You are conquering the West, driving everybody out. It is a reflection of what really happened. Of course, it's glorified. Of course, there are cinematic effects, but it is what actually happened. What about this? Now we're getting closer to the time in from when gangster rap emerged? I think this is the most popular movie of all time, The Godfather Part One. I know probably you all thought that it just kept going down, right? Part two and part three. A best-selling novel originally by Mario Puzo. But the best-selling movie of all time, perhaps the greatest American movie, touted as much, definitely top five, The Godfather. Why would a mafia movie, a gangster movie, a thug movie, a goon movie, how would this be number one in the United States as a movie? Why? Why would it be number one? Why would it be the top selling movie of all time? For my 2 cents, this is the most effectual, most influential movie for gangster rappers and rappers writ large, Scarface. And Scarface is achieving the American dream by hook or crook, an immigrant from Cuba with the Mario boat lift, 1982, Miami, Florida. He's coming and he is looking at how people are living, especially the gangsters. And he said, I want this. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go get it. And I'm going to sell that coca. Once again, forgive me for the corniness. It sounds corny when you say it, but the charisma is undeniable. The storyline is undeniable. The narrative, the arc, and you're rooting for Scarface. You're rooting for Scarface. This is gangster rap. This is the enduring appeal of gangster rap. Look at this. And this is not just horrorcore or rap that revels in the fantastic, in the gory, in the macabre. This is American culture. And to be fair, this stuff was decried by certain elements of the society when it came out. No way we could watch this in my home. Praise my parents. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, The Shining, Halloween, Freddy Krueger, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street, American Psycho, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Natural Born Killers. These are extremely violent media. The book version, the movie version, this is the DNA of America. So why would we not like gangster rap? Not that gangster rap even equals a level of this. I think that one rapper said one time that rap is just sonic, it's just audio, whereas this is touching, what, at least two of your senses. I think two of your senses, right? Eyes and ears. That could be complicated a little with music videos, but you get the point. Sopranos, gangster family. And everybody in the family is kind of gangster. Everybody in the family is aiding and abetting the gangster enterprise. They are all benefiting from the gangster enterprise. This is a metaphor for the United States of America and its history. Happy 250th. Happy 250. The whole family's benefiting. Some of the family acts like they don't know about it. And Tony Soprano's like, you know where this money's coming from. You know what I had to do for it. But he's a judged man. He's a stressed man. He has a burden. He's having a hard time coping with it. He needs to talk to a counselor. He needs to vent. He needs to have extramarital affairs because the immorality of it all, the psychopathy of it all is wearing on him. And this is another constant motif in gangster rap, the regret, the weighing on. Art has art, and in this case, this is books. Some of this is scholarship, but it's decrying urban conditions. And this is a huge thing in gangster rap. The cities are in many ways producing this media. Once again, black people have total agency. So I'm not taking away agency. We choose to do gangster rap. And I even have, when you talk about these big corporations, Sony, Warner, Arista, Jive, I'm probably leaving out some. These huge conglomerates that produce and distribute, promote and distribute the music. This is not all white people making money off black people. Many black people, like, didn't Easy E sell it to Jerry Heller? Not KRS-One, not Ice-T. Ice-T sold it to Stein. I mean, they said, hey, look at this. Check it out. It will make money. So they're talking them into it. So I don't think that it's always us as helpless pawns here who are just getting taken advantage of. I think that we wanted it. We wanted to put our art out there. And we have been held up to standards that artists are rarely held up to. Is Quentin Tarantino held over the fire for, let's say, a Pulp Fiction? This is decrying the urban conditions similar to rap music, and this goes way back. And perhaps the most famous book about this is A Native Son, yes, but also in the white space, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. And they are decrying the condition and what the urban conditions, what the urban realities are producing. The gambling, the crime, the prostitution, the murders, the malnutrition, the homelessness. Art is American art, American media is discussing this, and this is what gangster rap does. And as always, as artists, they're putting flourishes on it. They're adding charisma. They are entering into the experience of the people they're talking about. They are narrators, reliable and unreliable. Sometimes they partook in it, sometimes they didn't. Music, black music, white music. You have your Woody Guthries, you have your Bob Dylans, even though that wouldn't necessarily be urban. I think that they sang about urban things too. Just folk music. Your Billie Holidays, your Gil Scott Herons. They almost got Detroit this time. War, the group War, The World is a Ghetto. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, perhaps the most classic American album of all time. And he's decrying the conditions of the Great Migration, the conditions in the cities, among other things. Among other things. This has a great precedent in the war. When what about the murder ballots? Going back. So you see that this lecture is not necessarily linear. But the murder ballots of the Hatfields and the McCoys, and so many others in Appalachia, in the Rocky Mountains, in these urban areas. they are glorifying or talking about. And perhaps all music is a glorification because when that beat drops, when the melody drops, you feel better about it. Your chemicals are stimulated. It increases your dopamine and your feel good chemicals. The chemicals are flowing and you start going along with it. Murder ballads, they're constantly singing about murdering their brothers, the other family who they have beef with. And look at that little kid with the pistol. You see the little kid with the pistol, probably on your right. The guns are around the kids. Those seem like teenagers. That guy in the top, he seems like a teenager. Everybody's involved. Everybody is weaponized for these family feuds. What about the Mexico culture? There are narco corridos, and these are drug songs. They're songs about drug lords. They are songs about drug dealing, and they get into it. Some of them are reportage. A lot of them are glorifying the strong men who are the gangsters in the urban spaces, in the mountains. Narco corridos, check out the genre. This is the Russian drug music, Blatnaya Pesnya, and it is Russian gangster music. What's my point? Almost every culture, definitely ancient cultures, have had warrior music, has had military music. But I would say in the last, what, 100 years, there is narco music, drug music, gangster music in Japan, in Italy, about the Sicilian mafia, about the Neapolitan mafia, about gangsters. Brazil, in the favelas, they have gangster music. Let's talk a little bit about finally closer to home and the context, the milieu from which gangster rap arose. Gangster rap, I'm telling you, there are so many precedents. I understand the rap scholarship and the historiography of rap that this is a line, and this is when this line started, and these are the influences. For instance, Schoolie D, what is it? Ironically, PSA, what is it? PSA? PSK, what is it? And it was a straight Philadelphia street gang. And then Ice T is directly influenced by Schoolie D. In fact, he calls Schoolie D and says, "Hey, I'm coming out with the song 6 in the morning," and it is directly influenced by your gangster music. But there are so many precedents and rather antecedents. For instance, the soundtrack by Curtis Mayfield of Shaft and the song Pusher Man. Is that gangster rap? And is it sing songing? Because oh no, but he's not talking over it. He's not rapping. You know, rapping means talking. He's not talking over it. I don't know. Rap is so sing songy these days, a lot of it, that I'm your mother, I'm your father, I'm a pusher man. That sounds like just straight rap, proto rap. And a couple years ago, a couple years back, probably 20 now, 10, 20, they were talking about early gospel rappers. It was on YouTube. The videos are on YouTube. And this is in the 1930s and 40s. And they're rapping. They are rapping. The comedians, the toasts, your, am I going to draw up his name? Rudy Ray Moores and Dolomites. And they're rapping. So there's so many precedents to this. But let's say gangster rap per se, Schoolie D, a Philadelphian, I guess you could say Grandmaster Flash and the message, like 1982. It's interesting because it starts off, they're depicting what's happening in the hood, what's happening in the city. And then they're sort of like saying, okay, like I'm that. They're kind of owning it. So the message is kind of gangster because it's depicting what's happening there. And they're not really saying that they're a part of it, but it's para, it's proximate, adjunct. And a lot of early rappers were gangsters, they were thugs. Forget my language, that sounds funny to say that. But they were involved in the street life, but they weren't rapping about it. It's like, hey, let's rap about something happy. Let's do something for the party. And then it's like, okay. And by the way, I think that a Run DMC and they opened up a lot of this because it's not so happy go lucky now. They said that Run DMC were, were dressing like the drug dealers would dress: leather pants, leather jacket, heavy jewelry, the hats, the Adidas, the tongues out. And this gave a lane, this opened up the lane, this opened up space to talk about how things really were. It's not happy go lucky anymore. We are going to give you hood reportage. We're going to tell you how things are on the streets, on the street level, on the boulevard, in the alleys. And Schoolie D is saying, hey, this is what I do. Ice T is giving you an extended, how long is 6 in the morning? It's 10 minutes. I forgot, 7, 10 minutes. He's giving you extensive, very grimy. I in no way support those lyrics or endorse those lyrics. But then you have to ask yourself, well, is this art or what? If it's art, do we say, hey, with Michelangelo's David, Leonardo, Michelangelo, his David, oh, I do not support the pornography, the nudity in this statue. Do we talk like that? Perhaps we do, perhaps we should. But in this case, they are just weaving a story, weaving a narrative of hood life. All right. Cold Chillin', this is an early one. And I'm Fly with DJ Polo and Cool G Rap. It would be on their first LP, Roads to Riches. Just Ice, back to the old school. This is quasi gangster rap, maybe, but there's a song on here. Is what is it? Gangster hip hop, gangster rapper by Just Ice. A big one, a big year, and these are the very early years of gangster rap. BDP, Criminal Minded, I believe 9mm probably came out a year or two before Criminal Minded. And here you can see blatantly there's a pistol, a Glock on the front, KRS-One, and he has shell casings on it, and it's Criminal Minded. So we are going gangster music here, gangster rap. And it's interesting that KRS is an early gangster rapper. You think of him as knowledge, as conscious. Maybe we could use the word woke, but he's depicting a murder in 9mm bang. Ice T definitely rhyme pays. So he is Ice T is seen as the first gangster rapper. Although we could say it's Schoolie D, I think it goes back further than that. And I think that there are so many antecedents and so many precedents. And I'll talk a little bit about that. NWA and the Posse, and you can see Cube, Dre, Yella, Ren. Interesting, you can see a Candyman. And I don't know who that random dude is there. It's interesting. Was the NWA and the posse, was the posse multicultural? That seems like a white guy. So very interesting. And he may have a bottle of Hennessy in his hands. And you can kind of see just how everything comes together in these album covers, the styles and all of that stuff, and how this is a milieu. It comes from the culture. These young black men are geniuses. They are innovative. They are creative, but at the same time, they arise from the culture. And I'll discuss that. And then Straight Outta Compton, perhaps the quintessential gangster album with F the Police. What are some of their direct influences? The Black Panther Party and Black Power, Black Arts Movement. We can make art, we can make compelling art, saying exactly who we are, being proud of who we are. It's urban, it is militant, it is no coincidence that rap originates, as it were. You know, I have problems with that during the Black Power era. And our most touted, the legendary gangster rappers like Tupac Shakur are born in the bosom of the Black Panthers. Tupac is a son of the Black Panther movement, the Black Panther Party. Look at more of, and by the way, this Huey P. Newton was directly saying H. Rap Brown, Eldridge Cleaver, they are directly saying F the police. Literally, I think that's a direct quote. F the police. H. Rap Brown would say, F those white pig honkies in his speeches just out in the open. And this is the 60s. Huey P. Newton was directly fighting against the police brutality of the Oakland police. He shot a police officer. I'm not condoning that, but he shot a police officer in self-defense, and he was at first jailed, and then was he later acquitted? Kind of. I think he was acquitted, but he spent some time in jail. And when they would get him alone, they would just work him over. I mean, these are true heroes. These are true heroes. They stood up against the most powerful system in the world. America, the United States, won the Cold War. So these young black men and women, Erica Brown, Kathleen Cleaver, Angela Davis, they stood up against the most powerful system in the world and defied it. Where do you think the spirit of F the police comes from? It comes from this rich milieu. So many rappers are saying we were influenced by Bruce Lee and martial arts, perhaps most famously Wu-Tang Clan, who are taking their, Raekwon, Ghostface Killer, RZA, Inspector Deck, Method Man, they're taking their monikers, their rap names from Chinese martial arts culture. Of course, the blaxploitation culture is, and the pageantry, the performative nature, the extremes of blaxploitation, rap would imbibe these, gangster rap would imbibe these. The attitudes toward women, which I do want to condemn that, but doesn't it sound self-righteous and not, okay, good. Benjamin Baker condemns us, all right? But this is replete in rap culture. And as I mentioned this, for my money, this is gangster rap. Pusher Man is directly gangster rap. And Mayfield is becoming, he's the drug dealer. He's the pusher man in the song. and that is gangster rap. But this is Superfly. Check this out. Muhammad Ali, the godfather of rap. Now, is this gangster rap? I don't know. But the godfather of rap, he had albums rapping. Definitely rapping. What would you call it? There are even beats on it. He even has music in some of his albums. And he definitely has skits. But even more famous than his albums are him talking greasy, talking fly, talking trash, talking smack, whatever, and backing it up with violence, backing it up as a boxer. And the generations, my parents' generation, the generation before that generation, after they cleaved to that, to a black man defying white people, saying his mind, speaking boldly, doing it with swagger and flair and charisma, rhyming it. Early rappers were heavily and directly influenced by Richard Pryor and other comics who had albums and who gave rappers the lane to be who they were and to say to stretch and challenge that First Amendment, freedom of speech, and to be profane, to say how things really were. Street literature. Ice-T, perhaps the first major gangster rapper, got his name from Iceberg Slim, who was an urban lit, quote unquote, writer. Donald Goines, even the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I think that the autobiography of Malcolm X, he no doubt exaggerated his time as a thug, his time in the streets, his time as Detroit Red. I think this is exaggerated, which is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a book, it's a narrative. It makes his conversion all the more dramatic. You have to, if you study conversion literature, even Bildungsroman, you have to build up your evil life so that your conversion can be all the more spectacular. And I think that's what he's doing. But this is the Donald Goines, the Iceberg Slim. This is the pageantry, the narrative, the personae that you see in gangster rap. Yeah, gangster rap first of all, but then gangster rap, they emerged from counterculturalism. Not only of Black Power and the Black Panthers, which I think was a righteous cause, as is this. But you see Woodstock, you see the brother at Woodstock, you see the Vietnam protests, and the 1960s and 70s were about being counterculture. They were about being anti-authority because the authorities are corrupt. And this is the spirit that surges through gangster rap, that informs gangster rap. Gangster rap, in many ways, rap came from disco. And it's that freeness, it's the expression, it's the beat, the rhythm, the melody from disco that rap kind of emerged from. Now, it did and it didn't. I guess rap was a little bit before disco. But and rappers often said, early rappers, early hip hop pioneers, they said we made our own space with hip hop because they didn't let us in the disco clubs. We were discriminated from those, even though Black people started disco. We started it and then we were excluded from it. Sound familiar? That's a pattern. That's a motif throughout American history. We couldn't go to the disco clubs, so we created our own. So it's both. It's both. Rap was a product of disco and it was para disco. It was on the side of disco. It was both. But early rap is kind of, the Sugar Hill Gang, they're chic good times. They're constantly rapping over disco beats. They're rapping in discos. And then you have your Parliament Funkadelic. They are just, it's their expression that makes gangster rap. Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, they are strongly influenced. Ice-T, they're strongly influenced by Parliament and Funkadelic and George Clinton. They look up to that. That's Ice Cube's hero, George Clinton. Snoop Dogg, that's their hero. And we talked about the message, which is talking about urban conditions, and I believe is just 1 second away from saying, hey, we're in this world, but we're just not pawns. We're just not decrying it. We are actors in this world, and we are going to overcome this world. We are going to become power brokers in this world. We are not going to let the world dominate us. So you see broken glass everywhere. You see graffiti. We're going to be throwing some bottles. We're going to be spraying the graffiti. You see crackheads, people on crack. We are going to sell the crack. We're not just going to be bullied by our environment. So there's a switch. Gangster rap is cinematic. Gangster rap is Scarface writ large. It is downstream Scarface. This is the proto. This is the primary gangster movie, Scarface. And if you look at the outtakes, not the outtakes, that Scarface documentary, Scarface's influence on rap. So many rappers are saying this is the quintessential movie that influenced us and our craft. And of course, a major gangster rapper, Scarface, got his name from Scarface. Scarface of the Ghetto Boys, and really we can't even say the Ghetto Boys, just Scarface. Scarface can stand on his own. The Mafia. How many allusions to the Mafia are there in rap music? Like these are the OGs. These are more godfathers of rap music. The Mafia. Sicilian Mafia, Neapolitan Mafia, New York Mafia, Chicago Mafia, Philadelphia Mafia, Southern Florida Mafia, LA Mafia. These are the models of gangster rappers. So much so that people are like, a lot of people have commented that, are we just getting this from them? Or are we idolizing, white gangsters? But you constantly hear about Godfather, Don, Capo, Hits. I don't hear much about Tony Soprano, but you get the picture. All of that language, Goodfellas, things like that. Mafia, Don, that's all throughout rap music. So much so that sometimes it seems like the Mafia should get writing credits. So this is the milieu that rap springs up from. There is nothing but precedent. And of course, gangsters in the hood, gangsters in the urban environment, outlaws in the cities. And you'll hear early gangster rappers talk about their influence, and they're saying, we saw the dope boys, we saw the drug dealers, and we looked up to them. They're fly, they got money, they got power, they have women, they have jewelry, they have money, they have the cars, they have the respect. Why wouldn't you look up to them? especially when oftentimes as a young person, your morality can be, let's call it in gestation. It can be forming. Look at this perfect storm around the time of gangster rap music, the mid 90s. America has basically won the Cold War. The Soviet Union will fall in 1989 and 1991, but it's basically won the Cold War. This is a an early kind of meme, I guess. The astronaut, he's planting the MTV flag on the moon, which brings together the Cold War and MTV. The music industry is larger than ever, multi-billion now. And there is this new thing, I guess, you know how everything goes back really far. So maybe you can find music videos from like the early 70s, but they become really huge in the early 80s. I believe David Bowie was some of the first ones, but then Michael Jackson just took it to another level with Thriller. And you can add cinema now. There are even shows like Miami Vice and, of course, movies that are Miami Vice is basically like a long music video with drama interspersed in that. Remember the scene within the heat of the night and things like that. I can feel in the air tonight, Phil Collins and Miami Vice. So this is epic cinema. You're adding the music video with the music, and that is a mesmerizing concoction. Now you can add the cinema with the music and make it doubly powerful. Music is exploding, popular music is exploding. And gangster rap is coming right about that time. You have the counterculture of the 60s and 70s. You have the rise of music technology and musical technology. You have venues in place. You have large, massive conglomerations of music companies. The dominance, the global dominance of American culture, especially with the fall of communism. Now, American culture can permeate, can infiltrate and permeate those places, those countries, those nations. It's a wrap. Literally and figuratively, it's a wrap. There's so much in this as to how gangster rap came up. These great migration people, our ancestors, and now these are not even ancestors, these people are still with us. African Americans, they're coming to the cities for opportunities to escape the South for opportunities, for jobs, for life, for improvement. And they are systematically discriminated against, circumscribed, proscribed, redlined, gerrymandered into areas, and these areas are systematically desecrated. They're polluted. They're putting factories near them. The factories that Black people are coming up to work in are near these cities. They're putting highways near them with visual pollution, not visual pollution, pollution, audio pollution, rent inequality. And in the Bronx, it gets so bad just that they just start burning the buildings, the landlords, and there's all sorts of chicanery and evil going on there. And Black people are circumscribed to this area. And this is one thing that Martin Luther King Jr. and other architects of the civil rights movement knew, that segregation was extermination of Black people. When you can segregate us, you then have us where it can be like a cluster, you know what, and they can just destroy all of us or discriminate against all of us. Whereas if we're mixed, if we're integrated with white people, they won't do that. They can't do that as easily. Think about that. The Bronx is burning, and this is a synecdoche of the larger situation happening in the urban areas. Industrialization, the factorization of America is now declining, and you have areas like the Rust Belt where you have millions of Black people from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, maybe a little bit of Chicago, all of these huge Black centers. Industry is now leaving, and in its place is going to be poverty, want, crime. The crack cocaine epidemic. Black people are going to cope, some Black people are going to cope with the loss of jobs and the hard times with drugs. It is, Black people are confined to certain areas of the city, so drugs can be pumped in there. The conditions are dire. You can see that this is going to be a perfect storm to talk about in music. And there is a voyeuristic element of rap music because white people and others globally, all over the world, we said that gangster rap is universal in its appeal because everybody can identify with this. But one part of it is that it's voyeuristic. We don't know this side of life. We didn't grow up in these conditions. When you're depicting it in your music, what it was like to live in the crack cocaine epidemic era, you are going to add some to it. You're going to make yourself a hero. You're going to make yourself the strong man, the warrior, the outlaw, the underdog in this situation. You are not going to be a pawn. You are just not going to get the brunt of this. You are going to have to master your environment. And when you come out of it, you are going to be him. You're going to be the man. If you survive this environment, can you imagine if you survive this environment? What about if you master it? Everybody can identify with this, with rising up, with beating the odds. So everyone wants to identify with this. In fact, at one point, Christian preaching became motivational, largely motivational. Gangster rap became largely motivational. And people can take the simulacra of gangster rap, of motivation, and apply it to any area of their life. So I have to go to work. It's 7 o'clock. I have to go to work this morning. Let me listen to some rap music. And it's talking about getting over on your enemies, rising up from poverty, making money, and you can apply it to your rather mundane and quotidian, but very consequential and fraught situation for you at your day job, at your 9 to 5. You're in the gym working out, you're doing cardio. You want to lose some weight. You want to lift this weight. You want to get your personal best. Listen to rap music. And somehow it gloms on perfectly to whatever experience you're going through. We all have enemies. We all have hard times. We all want to make money. We all have unresolved issues of anger and vengeance. This perfectly articulates it. These apocalyptic circumstances can be easily transferred to anyone's life. Gangster rap is taking all of our human archetypes, atavisms, memes, shadows, and they're conveyed by charismatic Black youth over undeniable music, under the greatest music that's ever existed. Soul samples, disco samples, R&B samples, all sorts of samples, original music. And your chemicals, it's just undeniable. The disparities of the 1980s, the dizzying wealth of, let's say, a Wall Street with the burning of the Bronx just miles away. This discrepancy, I want the wealth, I don't want the burning. This discrepancy is going to be fodder for rap music. And what happens with the early gangs, they're rising up. Let's say the Bloods and the Crips come around, 1970s for all intents and purposes, and other places, because you want to protect your neighborhood, you want to protect your area, and then these are units, these are cadres that can successfully regulate the drug trade, regulate and master and operate the drug trade. There's a segue. Gangster culture. And by the way, when I've been referring to gangster in this lecture, it hasn't been gangster per se, but now it is. So let's say in Los Angeles, the Bloods and the Crips, and this is going to flow out. What did DJ Quick say? All these cities are like Compton now. The Bloods and the Crips, and then other gangs and other cadres are all over the place now. And Quick is observing this. He's not, it hasn't been brought about by Los Angelenos or Comptonites. He's observing it. It's already happened. These conditions are everywhere. And remember this, never forget, this is the human condition. This is the human condition. This is America. I think Donald Glover said, this is America. Look at this. Look at what's happening in the 1980s. This is stark, isn't it? It's like a steep mountain. Look at the US state and federal prison population. Look at what happens in the 1980s with the war on drugs and the crack cocaine epidemic. You're going to need storytellers to tell this story. You're going to need ghetto griots. This has to be documented. This has to be lyricized. It has to be performed. And this is the time in which the United States becomes the nation that has the most incarcerated people. 1 in 5 people who are incarcerated in the world are incarcerated in the United States. It is a shame. This is really not a civilized country. You can see the discrepancy between black and white. So there is the racial element as well. We as black men are being targeted. The war on drugs, that cocaine is, it's the coca leaf, and you make it into powder. You, I guess, synthesize into powder. You chemicalize it into powder, and then you add the powder, and then to make it go further, you mix it with different elements, maybe baking soda, maybe flour, whatever, something white powder, and it becomes hard. You want to get in your body, you want to get to the pleasure centers through your nose, through your veins. I don't think you can ingest it. I don't think you can orally ingest it, but maybe there are forms of that. And so white people, because they are more affluent, they have more money in the 1980s, would get the powder because it's not stepped on, it's not diluted, it's not cut. And black people are more the crack cocaine because it goes further, it's cheaper, and you are going to criminalize the crack cocaine more than you are the powder. Furthermore, you are going to police more Black people just in general. The prison population, Black men mainly who are incarcerated, Black women as well who are incarcerated, it skyrockets. And gangster rap is narrating this firsthand. All right, let's move on. And then the war on drugs, we realize what's happening and we decry it. We protest it. Black people are being targeted in this war on drugs. We know recently, what in the last 10 years, that when it happens in Maine, when it happens in Appalachia, with the opioid crisis, it is a it's a national crisis. It's an illness. It's a disability. But when it was Black people, they are criminals. They are super predators. They must be locked up. And the resolution, the the solution rather, is never systemic. It is always just what appears, just what we can find. Black, let's throw them in jail. Let's prosecute them. More direct influence on gangster rappers. Look at this. American blood sport. Young men, the testosterone is flowing. You can do anything. You are able. You are strong. You're invincible. And this can be like a drug as well. The young Mike Tyson, 1988, I believe, he's the heavyweight champion. What about the video games? This is a sort of unremarked aspect, but the video games are so, this is America. This is America. Remember, gangsterism is America. The video games are violent. They're hyper violent. Remember in Mortal Kombat when you could pull the heart out of that person and the heart is pumping in your hand and blood is. You remember that? This is Nintendo, I believe. This is in the Warp and Woof. It's in the fabric. And the police brutality, Rodney King, a huge case, oft mentioned in gangster rap. You have this this weird and bizarre situation in America. We're locking up our own. We are spending all this money to lock up Black youth. We're not getting to the source of this problem. And then there is this intense corruption from the rooter to the tutor. Iran Contra scandal around this time, the deep, deep corruption of American leaders, white American leaders, the gangsterism of the LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department, just beating this Black man up. And gangster rappers are reporting this all the while. And by the way, gangster rappers is all across the board about how this is common. Rodney King is just caught on tape. It's just videoed. Same thing happened with George Floyd. That's common, or types of that, iterations of that, versions of that. George Floyd just happens to be caught on video. Praise our ancestors for what they went through. There was no video. It was just the white word against the Black word, and the Black word doesn't count. (1994) crime bill. It's just one thing after another. This is a Democratic administration. And at the time, this is even aided and abetted, sanctioned by Black people. I think the NAACP, the Black Caucus, they were for this because, rightfully, you want to eliminate, reduce crime in your communities. But this redounds to more. one thing that's hard to think about is the administration of this. And this is sometimes what I would say to my socialist brothers and sisters who are our brothers and sisters, but if there is a redirection of the wealth of taxes, who's going to be taxed and who is going to distribute it? Do you, for instance, trust the current administration to distribute, to tax more, to help those of us who have not? The least of these, as the Bible may say. Do you trust that administration to not purloin it and siphon it for themselves? Because the corruption is so immense. So some of these systems, they sound good, but then who's going to protect us from the protectors? And so the 1994 crime bill is done so irregularly. It's administered so irregularly, so unfairly. Police force like the LAPD are administering this. In New York City, you have stop and frisk, and Black men are being disproportionately stopped and frisked. And so these things are good. We don't want our communities to be crime ridden. But what about the administration of this? I'm going to end with this. And this is sort of a meditation on gangster rap. Remember that we're not saying it's a great thing. We are not promoting it. And oftentimes it's definite harm to the Black community, Black men, Black women, Black children. We're just sort of exploring its appeal. We are placing it firmly in American history, saying it's an outgrowth of America and even atavistically human. We're sort of looking at the systemic roots of it. We're ending it on with Spice One, a gangster rapper. And this song is amazing. Listen to it again. He even says it's there's no justice, it's just us. And he's talking about the conditions of the hood. I think it's a brilliant song. I'll end it on this. From across the seas comes cocaine, but you never seen a Black man fly the plane. From across the seas comes cocaine, but you never seen a Black man fly a plane. Think about it.